Alright guys, today we are going to start a new chapter, and the first lesson in this chapter is called the coordinate plane. So we're going to learn about the coordinate plane and the basics about graphs. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is one-to-one correspondence. Now, the word correspondence, you might think of letter writing, right? You're corresponding with somebody, back and forth, back and forth. Well, one-to-one means that's one thing to one thing, only one-to-one. So when you are corresponding, you're corresponding only back and forth to one person. So in math, the definition for one-to-one correspondent is two sets, okay? Remember when we talked about sets? Two sets have a one-to-one correspondence. So two sets are corresponding together, back and forth, and they're one-to-one if every element in one set is paired with one and only one element in the other set, and no elements in either set remain unpaired. So every element has a partner from the other set, and only one partner from the other set. So now let's talk about the Cartesian coordinate plane, which has a couple of names. So first it has the name Cartesian coordinate plane. It also has the name the rectangular coordinate plane. And then mostly, usually we just call it the coordinate plane, So all of those words will be used, in and out. They mean exactly the same thing. We're just talking about the coordinate plane. Okay, so this is what a coordinate plane looks like. If you notice, it has two number lines. It has a horizontal number line, and it has a vertical number line. So here's 0 on your horizontal, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then still from 0 we can go the other way on the horizontal, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So it's just a horizontal number line. And on top of that horizontal number line, intersecting that horizontal number line, is a vertical number line. And that vertical number line has the same 0. And then going upwards, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the vertical number line. And then going down is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6 on the vertical number line. Okay, so that horizontal number line, that is what we call the x-axis, the x. And the vertical number line is what we call the y-axis. That's where we find our y's. Okay, so again, horizontal is x, vertical is y. Okay, and then the spot where the horizontal number line and the vertical number line intersect is called the origin. So that's where your horizontal is at 0 and your vertical is also at 0. Okay, so some definitions. The x-axis, it's the horizontal number line in the plane. The y-axis is the vertical number line in the plane. And then the origin is the point at which the x-axis and the y-axis intersect. It's where the horizontal number line and the vertical number line intersect. All right, let's talk about an ordered pair now. An ordered pair is a pair of numbers, so two numbers. It's written in parentheses, and it's used to locate a particular point on the coordinate plane. Think of it as an address. It tells you where that point is on the coordinate plane. Okay, so here's an example of an ordered pair. This ordered pair is point A. That's what the A in front of the ordered pair stands for. It's point A. And again, it's two numbers, a 4 and a -3. And that is the location of the point A, 4 and -3. It's its location. Okay, the first number in the ordered pair is the x-coordinate. Okay, remember the x-coordinate is on the x-axis, so it's the horizontal position, on the horizontal number line, okay? And then the second number on an ordered pair is the y-coordinate, which is the vertical number line, right? Since it's on the y-axis, so that says -3. So what does that look like? Well, remember, horizontally, the x-coordinate was 4. Okay, so we would go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the y-coordinate was -3, so we would go 1, 2, 3, down 3 because it was negative. So right there at that spot, that's going to be where the point A is, okay? So right there. All right. Let's talk about the origin. The origin is a very specific ordered pair. It is 0, 0, which makes sense because remember the origin is where they intersect. And remember I told you the origin is where the horizontal number line is 0 and the vertical number line is 0, which means that the x-axis and the x-coordinate is 0. And that means the y-axis has a y-coordinate of 0, which gives us 0, 0 for the origin. And if a point is on the x-axis, if it's on the horizontal number line, that means that it's not moving vertically, right? That means that the point is on the horizontal x-axis. And if it's not moving up or down, that means that your y-coordinate is 0. It's not moving up and down on the y-axis. So your y-coordinate would be 0, but you would still have an x-coordinate, which would be a number. The same thing, if a point is on the y-axis, your x will be 0 because if your point's on the y-axis, that means that it's not moving along the horizontal number line. So your x would be 0, but you would still have a y-coordinate because it's on the y-axis. Okay, also we have quadrants, okay? So the coordinate plane has 4 quadrants. We use Roman numerals to show the quadrants, and we always start in the upper right-hand corner. That's your first quadrant, quadrant 1. And then you go counterclockwise to name the other quadrant. So here's quadrant 1. You go counterclockwise, you get quadrant 2, and then quadrant 3, and then quadrant 4. All right, so let's look at some examples. They want us to give the coordinates in quadrant location of each point, P, Q, R, S. So we're going to look at a coordinate plane, and there's going to be a point P, a point Q, a point R, a point S, and we have to name the location with an ordered pair of those points. We also have to say what quadrant they are in. So let's try it. Let's look at point P. Point P is here. It's in the first quadrant. So remember, an ordered pair is an x value and a y value. So let's see along horizontally how far away is P from the origin. Well, it's 1, 2, 3. It's 3 away from the origin, which means horizontally, which means that our first number on our ordered pair will be 3. Now you have to look vertically. From the origin, how far away is the point P vertically? Well, it's 1, 2, okay, which means that the second number of the ordered pair, the y-coordinate, will be 2. So we would write that ordered pair as 3, 2 for point P. Now let's look at point Q. Point Q horizontally was 1, 2 away from the origin, but remember this is a number line, so since it's going to the left of 0, it's going to be -2. And then it's up 1, 2, 3, 4 vertically, which means our y-coordinate is 4. Let's look at the R, okay? Horizontally, R is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. It's 5 away from the origin, which means that the x-coordinate will be 5. Now, vertically, R doesn't move away from the origin. It doesn't move vertically. Remember when we said that if it doesn't move vertically, that means your y-coordinate is 0. So you would write 5, 0, which also means that it's on the x-axis. It's on the x-axis. All right, let's look at S. S is 1, 2 away horizontally, so our x-coordinate will be 2. And then vertically, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away, but it's going down, so it means it's going to be -5. So our y-coordinate will be -5. So we would write the ordered pair 2, -5. All right, so now we have our next example of problems that we will do. We are going to graph each point, okay? So these are the points we need to graph. There's 4 of them. So let's go ahead and look at the coordinate plane. So first, let's graph point J, which is 2, 4. So the 2 represents the horizontal distance. So we're going to go 1, 2, horizontal. And then the 4 represents the y coordinate, which is the vertical distance. So we're going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's our point J. Our next point is K, which is -1, -2. So remember, our first number is the x coordinate, which is horizontal distance. So it's -1, which means it's going to the left. So -1. And then our second number, our y coordinate, is -2, which means we're going to go down 2. 1, 2, and that's our point K. Now we have point L, which is -3, 3. So our first number is -3, and that's the horizontal distance. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 for -3. Now we have to do our y coordinate, which is 3, and it's the vertical. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we get our point L. Okay, now we have point M, which is 0, -5. So our first number is 0, and that's the horizontal distance. So since the horizontal distance is 0, that means we're not going to move left or right. We're going to be on the y-axis. And then our next number in the ordered pair is -5, and that's the vertical distance. So we're going to go -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's our point M. All right, so now we're going to graph more points, okay? So these don't have letters on them, they're just the points. So let's look at them, okay? So first we're gonna graph 0, 0. So 0, 0 means 0 for your x coordinate, so no horizontal movement, and 0 for your y coordinate, so no horizontal movement. So we haven't moved, which means we're right there. Remember, that point has a specific name. Anytime you have 0, 0, it's the origin. Okay, the next one is -2, 3. So -2 is the horizontal distance. So 1, 2 backwards because it's negative, and then 3 up. 1, 2, 3, and there's your point -2, 3. And our next point is 4, 5. So 4 is the horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is the y coordinate, which is vertical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's your point 4, 5. Now we're going to do 4, 0. So the 4 is the x coordinate, which is horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 0 is the y coordinate, which is vertical. And it's 0, which means there's no movement, which means that you're right there on the x-axis. You did not move vertically. Now let's do the point 3, -1. So the 3 is the x coordinate, which is horizontal movement. 1, 2, 3. The -1 is the y coordinate, so it's vertical movement. So vertically, we're going to go -1, which means down 1. So there's our point 3, -1. Okay, now we're going to do -2, -1. The -2 is the x coordinate, which is the horizontal movement. So we're going to go backwards -2 because it's negative. 1, 2, so that was -2. Now the -1 is the y coordinate, which is vertical. So we're going to go vertically -1, which means we're going to be going down 1. So there's our point -2, -1. Now we have 0, -3. So the 0 is the x coordinate, which is the horizontal movement. We have no horizontal movement because it's 0, which means we're going to be on the y-axis. The -3 is the y coordinate, so we're going to go, which is the vertical movement, so we're going to go -3 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3. And there's our point 0, -3. All right, so here's another type of question. It says, which of the points from the previous question is at the origin? Remember, we said the origin was very particular. The origin has no horizontal movement and no vertical movement, which means the ordered pair would be 0, 0. The next question says, which of the points from the previous question is on the x-axis only? So in order to be on the x-axis, that means that there's no vertical movement, which means your y-coordinate, the second number, had to be 0. So of the previous example, the only one that came up was 4, 0. That was the only one that was on the x-axis only. Okay. Now on the y-axis, that means that if it's on the y-axis, that means that there is no horizontal movement, which means that your x was 0. So the point that fits that question would be 0, -3. Now the question is, which of the points in the previous question is in the first quadrant? So remember, the first quadrant is the upper right-hand quadrant, and that would be 4, 5. In the second quadrant. So the second quadrant is counterclockwise from the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, if you notice, the second quadrant, you have vertically, you're positive, but horizontal, you're negative. So you would need a negative x, but a positive y. So the only point that had a negative x and a positive y was -2, 3. And the fourth quadrant, if you look at the fourth quadrant is the last quadrant. And your fourth quadrant has a positive x value because horizontally it's to the right of 0, but vertically it's below 0. So you're looking for a positive x but a negative y. And the only point that had that was 3, -1. Okay. So now the question says, how can we identify easily whether a point is on the x-axis? And the answer is the y-coordinate is 0, because if it's on the x-axis, that means there's no vertical movement, so the y-coordinate would be 0. So similarly, how can we identify easily whether a point is on the y-axis? If it's on the y-axis, there's no horizontal movement, which means your x-coordinate is 0. So now we have the question, how can we identify which quadrant a point is in? It's based on the signs of the coordinates, okay? If it's in quadrant 1, your x will be positive and your y will be positive. In quadrant 2, your x will be negative, but your y will be positive. In quadrant 3, your x will be negative and your y will be negative. In quadrant 4, your x will be positive and your y will be negative. So now we have the question, name 2 points on the x-axis, a distance of 5 from the origin. So they have to be on the x-axis, which means your y is going to be 0, and they have to be 5 away from the origin. So the first point would be 5, 0, but since you can also have the point -5, 0, because that's still 5 away from the origin. Okay, so name 2 points on the y-axis, a distance of 3 from the origin. So since it's on the y-axis, your x-coordinate will be 0. So we have the point 0, 3 and 0, -3. Both of those are 3 away from the origin. All right, let's do some exercises and get some practice in. Using the coordinate plane, name the point located by each ordered pair. Okay, so let's look at -2, 5. 2.5, 5. So 2.5 is the x-coordinate. So horizontally, we're going to go 2.5. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's about a half. Now 5 is the y-coordinate, which is vertical. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer would be B. B goes with 2.5, 5. All right, let's do another one. 2, -1.5. So 2 is the horizontal movement. It's the x-coordinate. -1.5 is the vertical movement, the y-coordinate. So -1.5. We get point F. Zero, 3. So 0 is the horizontal, the x-coordinate, which means that we're not moving, which means that we're going to be on the y-axis. And 3 for the y-coordinate. 1, 2, 3. We're at point C. Now we have -3, 4.5. So -3 is your x-coordinate. So 1, 2, 3. 4.5 is your y-coordinate. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And we get point E. 4, comma, -5. So 4 is your x-coordinate, which is your horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get point A. -3, comma, -4.5. So negative 3 would be going to the left. 1, 2, 3. -4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So we get point H. So -2, -3. -2 is going to go to the left. -3 is going to go down. We get point G. Four, comma, 4. So 4 is the horizontal. And then for the second 4 would be the vertical. And we get point I. -3.5, comma, 2.5. So the -3.5 is your x-coordinate. So 1, 2, 3.5, and then 2.5 is your y-coordinate. So 1, 2.5, we get point J. So -2.5, comma, 0. So -2.5 is your x-coordinate, your horizontal distance. 1, 2.5. Then 0 is your vertical distance, your y-coordinate. 0 means that there's no movement, which means that we're on the x-axis. So you have point D. 5, comma, -2.5. So 5 is the x-coordinate. And then -2.5 is the y. So we get point K. So 0, comma, -4, the 0, which is the x-coordinate, so that means your horizontal movement. Since it's 0, there's no horizontal movement, so you haven't moved, which means that your point is going to be on the y-axis. Then we have -4 for your y-coordinate, so 1, 2, 3, 4 going downwards, which gives us point L. All right, so now that we've had plenty of practice, it's your turn. You're going to do 9.1, number 2 through 6 evens. It's due in class with your notes.